Boy, did we ever pick the wrong Roman Colosseum guided tour. The Colosseum in Rome, Italy. It is a global iconic historical landmark, just like the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. Of course, when you visit Rome, Italy for the first time, you have to visit the Colosseum. But what's wrong with this picture? You tell me. Can't see it? Let me help. There. Now what's wrong with this picture? 3 guided tour leaders trying to cram all of their people into this small space inside the Colosseum, and most of the tourists on their tours are behind me. This does not make for a great tour experience. Hi, this is Dan from Nancy and Dan Travel, coming to you today from Rome, Italy, where we toured the Colosseum. Nancy and I were here in May 2024, and like many first-time visits, we had to experience the Colosseum. We took a guided tour, but our experience was not what we were expecting. In this video, we take you along with Nancy and I during our guided tour of the Colosseum in Rome, warts and all. You'll see what I mean when I say the experience of this type of guided tour was definitely not what we were expecting and hoping for. We will keep our audio interruptions to a minimum so you can see the splendor of and what we were not anticipating during our guided tour of the Colosseum in Rome for yourself. Be sure to watch to the end of our video so you can learn all of the mistakes that Nancy and I did in selecting our guided tour of the Colosseum in Rome so you don't repeat our mistakes. And we'll also tell you what type of tour you should strongly consider for your experience of the Colosseum in Rome. As you are proceeding with us on this tour of the Colosseum in Rome, if you're enjoying and learning something from our experience, please consider giving this video a big thumbs up and subscribing to our Nancy and Dan Travel the World YouTube channel. Join us now as we begin our guided tour of the Colosseum in Rome. Our tour was booked through Viator and was with the Roman Guide Tours company. It was titled Guided Colosseum Tour with Roman Forum. Start time was set at 9 a.m. It was a beautiful, bright, sunny morning, as you can see, yet we could tell it was going to be a hot one. This was the meeting point, right by the Colosseum subway or underground station. The crowd at the meeting point was a big clue that it would be very busy inside. After we received our earpieces so we could hear our tour guide, off we go with our tour guide in front. The Colosseum itself is very impressive. Built between 72 and 80 AD, around 4 to 5 centuries after the Parthenon on top of the Acropolis in Athens, Greece was built. Here you see part of our tour group waiting to get through the security checkpoint. The tour description used terms like privileged admission arrangements to the Colosseum. Yet to us, we didn't see any privileged admission. I can tell you that these steps were very, very tall, which made it a little bit challenging going up them, which was surprising. The other issue we had is how many tourists are allowed inside the Colosseum at one time, as well as, and more importantly, how poorly the crowds of tourists are herded through the Colosseum, how their flow is arranged. At times, we lost our tour guide unless we strictly focused on her and did not turn our head, even for a few seconds, to look at what we were walking past. Our tour guide did her best to communicate with us what we were seeing, some history, such as the slaves and animals living underneath. It was an honor for a child to be selected to gladiator school, and so on. Inside, the Colosseum was of course extremely impressive. Yet, since our tour was to show us the highlights, we were not let out onto the Colosseum open area shown here or the underground. We had limited time in Rome, which led Nancy and I to select a highlights tour. We'll know better next time, and you now know better to learn from our mistakes. it was nice that we did have some time for a few selfies inside.
Oh, with you. So that would have been, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense.
And we also saw some artifacts as shown here, which were very interesting. Yet with the crowds, we didn't really get a good understanding of what we were looking at, other than some were said to be original carvings etched into the stone. What would we do next time, and what should you do to maximize your experience touring the Colosseum in Rome? Well, for one, stay away from the bulk morning guided tours. Be careful of the colorful phrases that they use to lure you in. Unless the Colosseum reduces the number of people that will be allowed to enter at one time and improves dramatically how they organize the flow of tourists once inside, you will likely be disappointed. If your schedule only allows for a morning tour, look for one that, if it exists, gets you inside before the Colosseum opens to all of the bulk guided tour groups. Pay the extra money for a semi-private or private tour group. Your experience will be so much better. We would also consider an evening tour of the Colosseum, again, semi-private or private. The Colosseum is all lit up at night and looks spectacular. Friends of ours did this and they raved about it, yet they only told us about this after we returned from our trip to Rome. Consider special access tours. These tours offer special access to the Colosseum, such as Gladiator Entrance, Colosseum Area Floor Tour that allows visitors to walk through the Gladiator's Gate and onto the reconstructed arena floor, or a Colosseum Underground Tour that visits the Hypogeum where wild animals and gladiators once emerged from trapdoors. And so with that, let me introduce you to something that Nancy and I experienced during our 4 days in Rome, Italy, that we can recommend to you, highly recommend to you. The outstanding rooftop breakfast. You can see the incredible views and the huge collection of breakfast items that we experienced right here in this video. So click this video right now to continue your Roman adventure. Or here's another video for you from our Nancy and Dan Travel the World collection. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.